Thank you so much. What I really hope to do is inspire a few people in this room that by putting patients first and being patient-centric is a strategy that can enable you to achieve things that you would never imagine possible. I'm now part of a public company, so I got to throw this up. And just to confirm, these are my opinions. I'm not representing Pentavere or HealWell. Really quickly, what does Pentavere do? And what was the problem way back in 2017 that we endeavored to solve and solved it by putting patients first? Is the majority of patients fall through the cracks in our healthcare system. And the string that we pulled was because so much of our healthcare information is not used in a scalable, reproducible, efficient way to improve health outcomes because it's buried in our electronic health record, buried in the notes, this transcription text. And as a result of that, so many patients fall through the cracks. My fellow co-founder's mother died as a result of information being missed because post-operative care notes was not included in the plan. We've published now in over 40 journals validating our technology. And when we talk about putting patients first and what that means in terms of achieving the remarkable, as a Canadian-based, Canadian-made, Canadian-exited AI company, we were the first company to ever publish a natural language peer-reviewed paper comparing in-production electronic health records to manual chart review, and we did that in partnership with St. Mike's Hospital. We were the first peer-reviewed paper using large language models to identify rare cancer patients so that they can get better care, and we did that in partnership with Johnson & Johnson and right here with University Health Network. We're powering the first ever AI-enabled, AI-powered learning health system with Hamilton Health Sciences and all 11 institutions around that, where women in southwestern Ontario are getting better care to guidelines as a result of accelerating the ability for clinicians to get access to the information to identify patients so that they can deliver care appropriately. We've published a first-of-its-kind manuscript in JAMA, and for the clinical folks in this room, JAMA is a pretty hard paper to get into in partnership with Sunnybrook Hospital, demonstrating how that AI capability can actually accelerate and automate and improve cancer staging, because so much of what's required to properly and accurately stage cancer is across so many different records and patients are missed. We're the only commercial AI solution referenced by the OACD's first report, and as we were the first company to win a pre-Gallion award and have now impacted over 1 million patients right here in Canada. And when we talk about the startup journey, why I'm so happy to be here and why it's so meaningful to me when we talk about patient first, is we demoed for the first time in this building back in 2018, the first MVP of our product. And how we went about doing it and how we went about building our company was actually counter to a lot of the norms because we put patient first. But fast forward, I guess, 7 years in November 2024, when you talk about the remarkable, we won the pre-Gallion Award, which is life science, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Award for life science innovation that's considered improving the human condition. And when you think about spectacular, behind me, that's Michael Rosenblatt. He was the co-founder and chief medical officer of Flagship Pioneer, so think Moderna. Beside him is the president of Stanford and, the former chairman of Merck. How we went about doing that and achieving that remarkable was putting patients first. So as much as the journey of a startup is hard, and you iterate, and you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, and every single entrepreneur in this room I know goes through that. Every employee of a startup company lives that tension, lives that uncertainty. But what I want to share is the constant through those 7 years, going from a few-person company, sharing a demo here at TechTO, not TechTO, sharing at TechTO, to being on the stage at the Museum of Natural History in New York. The constant was patient first was our go-to-market strategy. Patient first was our funding strategy. Patient first was our product strategy. And I'd like to sort of unpack what that looks like. So again, no criticism to this playbook. That's not what I'm here to share. But if you think about the typical startup playbook, you start with the problem. What's that problem? What's that total addressable market? And we're going to design a product. We're going to design a set of features in order to solve that problem and win market share. And then you go out and raise capital. And you raise seed capital to build that minimal viable product that you're committing to certain uses of capital. You're committing to certain milestones that you're going to achieve. And then you want to scale rapidly, which means more and more raising, higher and higher valuation until you eventually hit that exit. And I want to be really, really clear. This is a tried, tested, best practice playbook. But in healthcare, it's really hard. And one of the things that we were humbled about when we approached healthcare was some of the biggest companies in the world with unlimited resources haven't cracked the nut. And why we believe that's the case is, think about it. You go and you raise money to build your product. You define the problem based on your total addressable market. Healthcare is complex. You got ethical issues. You got privacy issues. You've got very complex incentives, and you've got profound ethical responsibilities, and rightfully so. So what does that look like in that journey? Start with the product. Okay, we built it. It works. It has all of the features that we wanted. Well, hold on a second here. Now I'm dealing with the legacy IT infrastructure of our healthcare system. I got to tell you, we talk about AI. In some hospitals, we're still running off AS400 servers that companies were operating on in 1999. So good luck, as good as your MVP is, to actually get it deployed. And then when you do that, hold on a second here. Who owns the data? What about patient privacy? What about ethics? What about HIPAA? What about the fact that in Canada, every province has different privacy legislation? Ooh, I better iterate. Now I need to raise more capital. My product isn't working the way that I think it should be working. And then in healthcare, that's great. What about the clinician adoption? Because before you get to a patient, the clinicians, the scientists, the caregivers have to believe in what you're doing, and more importantly, they have to change behavior in the backdrop of them being incredibly busy, in the backdrop of us hitting a once-in-a-lifetime healthcare capacity issue. And we're introducing, new tools that haven't gone this rigor. And then finally, we get to the patients. Our hypothesis was that doesn't work. How we went about doing it was we started with the patient. And I want to be clear, it's not like we thought about this moving forward. We just knew, based on the vision of my co-founder's mother who passed away as a result of data not being available, that if we don't start with the patient problem and understand that, we didn't think we would be successful. So we embedded ourselves at St. Michael's Hospital for 2 years at our expense to learn about the patient, to learn about data, to learn about privacy. And we built trust and transparency through publications. Now, for the VC folks in the room, our first major hire, which was a big bet, was we poached the former chief privacy officer at University Health Network to be our first hire. Imagine a pitch saying, I have no idea what the product is. I have no idea how I'm going to make money. What I do know is, in an industry that's 19% of most developed countries' GDP, and 90% of patients fall through the cracks, and 80% of that data isn't used to make things better, and we learned this firsthand during COVID. Think about it. AI and data science, we as a mature society was able to use AI to bring to market an incredible vaccine based on our ability to analyze our biology. But what couldn't we do? We couldn't give evidence-based guidance that says, if you're a 35-year-old woman with plaque psoriasis on a biologic, based on evidence, your risk is pretty good. Go to work even though you're, immune deficient. But if you've got ankylosing spondylitis on that same biologic with type 2 diabetes, your risk is higher based on evidence. Therefore, maybe stay home. We couldn't give that guidance because of the problem that we were trying to solve. Our first hire with that patient-first mindset was the Chief Privacy Officer of UHN. We avoided that MVP trap. So we weren't focused on building a product based on a recurring revenue model. What we were focused on is how do we validate and automate and trust the ability to solve the problem of unlocking information within the electronic health record. And then we started to build sustainable business models all around that patient. Because if you're a patient with confirmed heart failure, reduced ejection fraction, not on guideline medical therapy, you're worth some money to Novartis appropriately. But you're also going to go to the hospital in about 2 months if you're not on proper preventative care, and that costs us as a taxpayer a lot of money. So how do you think differently about patient identification and value-based models tied to doing better health outcomes for patients? So when we sort of think about that model and that playbook around putting patients first, you start with the patient. You understand them. You understand the folks around them, and you understand what are those value drivers in terms of the problem that you are solving in order to build and scale your company. And then you think about what's that clinical adoption going to be like? How are we going to actually get it through that meat grinder in a meaningful way where clinicians trust it? Somebody very senior at one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies told me, he said, Aaron, in healthcare, innovation only moves at the speed of trust. And what we are learning in the early days of AI is the currency of AI, the currency of value is trust, especially in healthcare. And then how do we deal with privacy? Then how do we deal with the legacy IT infrastructure in terms of deploying in environments where we don't have the compute? Build all of that into our thinking as we move down that TAM product and MVP. We started this discussion today in this incredible meeting talking about Canada and our need to create that commercialization. I think it's really meaningful that we're here in this room because here in this room, we gave away insulin for $1. And across the pond, an entire region is being commercialized and being the recipient of that treasure. I don't know how many folks know, but across the street, GLP-1s was invented and discovered. So you think about Ozempic, you think about Mounjaro, you think about that platform. Again, a Canadian invention. I show this galing because it was a global recognition, but what I haven't spent so much time talking about is we returned to 20x to our shareholders. Our announcements in terms of our AI breakthrough has created over $100 million of capitalization. So my message to this room is, by putting patients first, you do not need to compromise on commercialization and scale. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have the opportunity to walk and chew gum at the same time, celebrating our Canadian values. And that's why when we think about a putting patient first is a sort of mindset that I propose to this group and hope to inspire those who are just starting on their journey. I was asked just in closing to say a few words generally about AI in the early days of AI. And that same message, in my opinion, holds true. We can look at AI as a tool of efficiency. We can look at different applications of AI to solve process problems and workflow problems. Or we can look at AI as really a trusted partner to amplify our individual potential. We could design products thinking not about how are we going to create efficiencies to reduce workflow, reduce workforces, but how can we use AI as a tool to amplify the greatest talents that we have to solve some of these perplexing problems. Here's just a few ideas in terms of, from a design perspective, ways to think about AI building, AI architecting, using the same framework, using the same architecture, using the same mindset and values that contributed to our success. Thank you very much. Good luck, and let's continue to support each other in this ecosystem.
Two quick questions. I'll take the first one here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Faye, and I was also working on a research study at UHN. So do you think patients usually trust AI in terms of their healthcare data?
I don't think... So do I think patients trust AI in terms of their healthcare data? I don't think the majority of patients really understand what that question is, nor should they understand what that question is. I think the question is, should patients expect that their personal health information is treated with the utmost security, is treated with the utmost ethics, is treated with, that sort of sanctity that we sort of don't treat other types of data sets? Absolutely. Do I think patients should be informed that their data may, in an ethical, compliant way, contribute to scientific breakthroughs, contribute to alleviating disease that they're experiencing right now? I think everybody would sign up for that. The question is then, how do you do that? So, for example, right now, we're the largest private healthcare provider through our strategic alliance agreement with Well Health and HealWell. So when you think about putting patients first in terms of giving them the opportunity to opt in or opt out and informing them in terms of at our clinics, all of our development of our AI engine, and this is unique, was done through over 35 ethics-approved retrospective, non-interventional, real-world evidence studies that have benefited, evident in publications, over 1 million patients around the world in terms of new discovery. So even though patients didn't opt in, some of our most esteemed scientists and researchers across the country, across therapeutic areas, have used AI, used the data to contribute new knowledge to the scientific community, and I think everybody would be pro for that. And in Canada, we have a massive opportunity to scale that as a true commercial opportunity for our country.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you.